Let's rank all 18 starting quarterbacks in the Big Ten. There's a lot of new quarterbacks, a lot of new faces, new coaches, and 4 new teams. I've already ranked the quarterbacks in the SEC, and I've already ranked the coaches to all 4 power conferences, but now I'm going through quarterbacks for each one. And just like my criteria in the SEC quarterback rankings, I'm trying to base solely on what they have done in their careers. I'm trying to not put any projections or predictions in this ranking. It's a little bit on potential, but I try to keep it minimum for the most part. Coming in last on this list, Athan Kaliakmanis at Rutgers. Total in his career, he's got 17 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. He's going into his 3rd year, and he's just not been very accurate or very smart with the football. He spent his previous 2 seasons at Minnesota. Now he transferred to Rutgers with Greg Schiano. Rutgers has a pretty good team. They're just coming off a bowl win, and he's going to need to be very good for them to get back there. At number 17, we have a new face in the Big Ten, Mike Wright at Northwestern. Going into his 5th year, he's got 24 touchdowns, 14 interceptions throughout his career. He's a pretty good runner. He started off at Vanderbilt and then went to Mississippi State last year and did not have a very good season. Northwestern's coming off a really good year under David Braun. Hopefully Mike Wright can fit that system. Number 16, Luke Altmaier at Illinois. He is coming off a rough first year at Illinois. 13 touchdowns, 10 interceptions in 2023. And for this team to go to a bowl game, they didn't go last year. For them to go to a bowl game in 2024, he's got to tone down the interceptions and just be smarter with the football. Number 15, Cade McNamara at Iowa. He's coming off 2 seasons where he battled injuries throughout the entire season. But even in his best year in 2021 with Michigan, when they went to the playoff and lost against Georgia, he had 15 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So just a pure game manager, if you even want to call him that. But it is Iowa. Their defense is electric. They have the best linebacker and safety group, I think, in the country. And for them to be good and to win 10 games, Cade McNamara has just got to be serviceable. And I think he can be that. Number 14, MJ Morris at Maryland, another new face in the Big Ten. He comes over from NC State, where he spent 2 years there. And in those 2 years, he was the starting quarterback in 7 games and was pretty good in those 7 games. This past season, he struggled with interceptions more than he did the first season. And in fact, the one game he started against Marshall, he put up great numbers, almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he threw 3 interceptions, and they almost lost to that Marshall team. Now he comes to Mike Locksley's system, and Maryland is in the post-Tagovailoa era, so we'll see if MJ Morris can step up. Number 13, Alex Orji at Michigan. In his 2 years in Michigan, he's only had 1 thrown pass, and it was completed, so he's throwing 100%, but he was mostly used in running scenarios, which he was very good at. So the only thing we really have to go off of as far as passing is his spring training and practice highlights, and he looked pretty good in those, so can't say anything bad about him. Michigan is in a spot where they just come off a national championship and a good quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. Now, with that defense they have and the run game they have, they don't need much from Alex Orji, just needs to be serviceable. And if this is your first time seeing 3 and Out, watch some more videos. I just ranked the SEC starting quarterback, so go watch that. Tell me what you disagree with. There's a ton to disagree with in that video and this video. Also, follow us on TikTok and Twitter. We're trying to post daily, especially with college football season right around the corner. Number 12, Ethan Garbers at UCLA, a new face and a new team. And UCLA comes over to the Big Ten. Garbers had a weird season last year in UCLA. They were kind of training Dante Moore, the former 5-star at UCLA, to be the guy this coming season, but he really never materialized into that. And so Ethan Garbers had to play a lot of the time, and in those 6 games he played, he did good. 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Now he's going to be the full-time starter in a new era at UCLA with Deshaun Foster coaching, Chip Kelly leaving. So just kind of different times at UCLA, but Ethan Garbers was a serviceable quarterback last year, and I think he can be even better this season. And number 11, Hudson Card at Purdue. This was his first season as the guy at quarterback. Before this, he was at Texas being the backup and playing when he had to, but at Purdue, he is the guy. And he did not have a bad season last year. In fact, he finished very strong the past 2 weeks with 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, so hopefully he can carry some momentum into 2024. But Purdue might not be good again this year. They were 4-8 last year under a brand new coach in Ryan Walters. But he's just got to keep going and just get some momentum around the program. Number 10, a new face, Aiden Childs at Michigan State. He comes over from Oregon State with Jonathan Smith, the new coach of the Spartans, and has not much time in his career. He was behind DJ last year, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in the time he did play, and he just has so much hype around him, and I'm very excited for Michigan State. Number 9, Tyler Van Dyke at Wisconsin. He leaves Miami and joins Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. And this guy had a great freshman season in 2021, built so much warranted hype around him, and that was 3 years ago, and he has not done much since. He's been very, very turnover prone the years since. Maybe Luke Fickell can turn it around because there is something in this guy. We know he can be a good quarterback, and maybe it'll show at Wisconsin. And this is where my rankings get a little bit confusing because number 8 is Dylan Raiola at Nebraska. This guy is a true complete freshman, so there's nothing really to go off of besides his practice tapes and spring training and all that. So I know that's kind of confusing, but man, I think right now he is a top 10. I have him 8, the top 8 quarterback in the Big Ten even right now. He's got the size and he's got the accuracy and arm power. We'll see what happens. He's a complete true freshman. Like I said, he is the highest rated recruit in Nebraska history at quarterback. So much hype around that program. We'll see what happens with it. Number 7, Max Brosmer at Minnesota. A complete new face in the Big Ten, a complete new face in the FBS level. His only time playing was at the FCS level with New Hampshire. And 29 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last year, 3,500 passing yards, 27 touchdowns in 2022. So it wasn't just a one-year thing. This guy has been doing it at the FCS level. We'll see if he can bring it over to the FBS level at Minnesota. Number 6, Curtis Rourke, a new quarterback at Indiana. Much like Max Brosmer at Minnesota, these guys just don't have a lot of eyes on them because they were at a lower level school. In Curtis Rourke's case, it was the MAC conference. He was at Ohio, the Bobcats, and in 2022 he was the MAC Player of the Year, 25 touchdowns and 4 interceptions that year. And the year before that, in 2021, he did not have a very good season, and the year after that, 2023, last year, he did not have a very good season. So kind of up and down with Curtis Rourke, but there were a lot of changes going on around that. He comes to Indiana with Curt Cignetti from Cignetti's from James Madison. He leaves that job and comes to Indiana. And instead of getting James Madison's star quarterback Jordan McLeod, he picks Curtis Rourke from Ohio. So that should tell you something, and that should tell you Indiana fans something. So I'm super excited for Curtis Rourke, and I think a lot of people are going to know who he is after this season. Number 5, Miller Moss at USC. And yes, USC is now in the Big Ten. But Miller Moss is going into his 4th season in college, and that sounds kind of crazy just because we kind of just know him, or in some people's cases just met him. We know him from that bowl game against Louisville where he went off almost 400 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, a pick, and USC won that game. And we know what Lincoln Riley can do with quarterbacks. So that is what should be the most exciting thing about this, in my opinion. This is a huge year for Lincoln Riley and USC, and I think Miller Moss will be phenomenal for them. Number 4, Will Howard at Ohio State. This is a one that could surprise some people, him being this low, if you want to call it that. Last season was phenomenal for Will Howard at Kansas State. 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, also 9 rushing touchdowns. He's a very good runner, and he moves well on the ground. The reason why he's at number 4 and not higher is because up until 2022, he was kind of mediocre to a bad quarterback, and then kind of popped off in 2022, and then last year was phenomenal for them. So in Ohio State's offense, he does not have to be phenomenal. He does not even have to be great. With the weapons they have, the running backs, the wide receivers, and that defense, they don't need anything special from Will Howard, but I think he can deliver it, and I think he will be great. But right now I have him as my number 4 quarterback in the Big Ten. Number 3, Drew Aller at Penn State. I surprised myself having Drew Aller this high on this list just because in important games last year it seems like he struggled mightily. But I have to remember that was his first time as a full-on starter. And in those big games, it was normal for him to do that. It really was. It should have been anyway. 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions is a hell of a stat line. And he's just a very accurate guy and a very smart quarterback most of the time. In the times that I watched him in the film, I watched him last year. Just a pretty smart guy with the football. He's a very good runner, has a huge size to be able to run and everything. And if he can be better than he was last year for Penn State, I think they're a lock to make the playoff anyway. But I think they can win a game or two in the playoffs if he is better than last year. Number 2, and this could be shocking to some people that he's this high, Will Rogers at Washington. The new quarterback at Washington. He transfers after 4 years at Mississippi State, where he broke some SEC records at Mississippi State. And this past season, he struggled there. It was under a new coach, a new system. But in 2 years under Mike Leach's offense, 71 passing touchdowns and 17 interceptions. So that should show you, and not to even mention the passing yards, that should show you how good of a quarterback he is, and he can just launch it. He really can. I think he's going to be really good at Washington under Jedd Fisch's system. Jedd Fisch is really good at raising quarterbacks up from good to really good. With Jayden de Laura, turned him into a pretty good quarterback. And Noah Fifita is just a star and still is at Arizona to this day. And I think Will Rogers is going to fit in perfectly with Jedd Fisch's system. But at number 1, Dillon Gabriel at Oregon. A new face in the Big Ten, a new team in the Big Ten. Dillon Gabriel transfers to Oregon from Oklahoma. And before that, he was at UCF, and we all know those games and everything. But this past season, he was elite. A top 5 to 8 quarterback, maybe even higher to some people. 30 passing touchdowns, almost 3,700 passing yards, only 6 interceptions, added 400 rushing yards, and 12 touchdowns. 42 total touchdowns for Dillon Gabriel this past season. And this year, I think he can be a Heisman contender. I really do. Oregon has national championship hopes, and with this guy's talent level, his athleticism, his accuracy, and his experience, this is going to be his 6th year as a collegiate quarterback. And I think it can all come out to a national championship for Oregon. But yeah, guys, that is my ranking of the Big Ten quarterbacks. Comment what you disagree with. I'm sure in a week or especially midway through this season, I'm going to be like, what the hell was I thinking? But that is why these rankings are fun. Like and subscribe as well. Trying to grow this channel every day. And follow us on TikTok and Twitter as well. Trying to post every day on those, especially with college football season right around the corner. I appreciate y'all.